thought I'd make a dramatic entrance. That wasn't so dramatic, but this is a dramatic response video. The outrage, the gall, the Michaels. What have the Michaels done in the vinyl community of YouTube? Just shouting against the record industry. Look at all those Michaels. Too many Michaels. Fremer, Ingrooves, 45 RPM. Michaels. Not many Normans, really. Or Mazzies, for that matter. I did a video last week about how we want transparency from the record labels. Now, that was a response to Michael 45 RPM's just like guesstimate about this Mobile Fidelity Thriller. How can it be all analog when yada, 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 so many versions? Well, now Mike at the Ingroove basically comes out and accuses Mobile Fidelity of putting out digital sourced records since 2015. Now, I didn't quite get if he's talking about only the one steps or all the records, but I've heard rumblings about this over the last several weeks, but I have no inside information. I hear from this person who told that person. I'm not about to accuse anyone of doing this, but most people who buy records don't really care about this digital analog thing. The thing is, though, there is a segment of people, some audiophiles, some others, that if someone is promoting an album all analog, we want to know that. And they're priced differently. I mean, these Mobile Fidelities are priced quite a bit more than some other things. When we had Music Matters Jazz, we knew those are all analog. The Tone Poets, Joe Harley has promoted that, and with Kevin Gray is all analog. This label, Interventions of Washington State, just south of me in Gig Harbor. I'm in Seattle. Look at this. Look at that hype sticker. Now, I think they should put them on the actual album covers. Forget the hype stickers. This says 100% analog mastering from real analog tapes. That's about as definitive as you can get. And they also put out this Everclear record. Now, this is a time when digital was pretty much king. And what it says here is mastered from high resolution. And they sound amazing. So we don't really care as long as we know and as long as they're transparent about this and they're honest about it. I originally was going to start this video because of this album. I wanted to showcase this new Neil Young album called Toast. This is recorded in 2001, and it was about the breakup of him and Peggy, his wife at the time. Sad album to some extent. It was recorded at Toast Studios in San Francisco on Mission Street. Now, right when I saw this album cover, I fell in love because I know this building, I know this street, I know this. I've been to this studio many times. Back in the 70s and 80s, it used to be called Coast Recorders, and then at some point later it turned into Toast, and I went to sessions there, parties there, and this is kind of one of those memories for me of San Francisco. But obviously the music is what's important, and diving into the music, it has a really just, for a Crazy Horse album, aside from maybe one song that has a little edge to it, it's got a good groove to it, a good soulful, psychedelic style of groove. And I just think this is a fabulous album. I love it a lot. Neil Young. But the reason this video has morphed is because of what I mentioned in passing in other videos and on some forums. I made comments about how we need to adopt the Neil Young transparency logo. Next to his NYA, Neil Young Archives, there's a small, tiny thing that says source. We need all the record companies, every single friggin' label, to put these little source boxes on not on the hype sticker, but on every back album cover. Screw the barcodes. Okay, I know they need barcodes for inventory purposes and sales purposes, but we need the source code. Now, in this case, it's small, but it basically says original analog tapes. This is from this album, Toast, recorded at Toast, was from original, the full analog tapes. Neil Young tells us that. In this album from several years ago, Tuscaloosa, the same thing. Right next to the Reprise logo, we see source, original, analog tapes. And then this is one album. You know, he has his whole bootleg series, he has the archive series. This is Neil Young, The Times. And, you know, Neil Young puts out an album like every 6 weeks. He's basically the Stephen King of record making these days. I kind of jest there, but this says, mastered from 192.24 digital. So this is a digital recording, digital mastered recording. And he lets us know that. And we buy it or we don't like it. It's actually a nice record. So that's the thing we need every label to do. Now, most people don't care about all analog, but the people that do really do. And not to say they're not good recordings. A lot of great recordings come from digital sources, but if they're going to charge us more, they need to tell us. According to Michael, which Michael? One of the Michaels. The In-Groove Michael, the Retail Michael, the Mattress King Michael. He's stating as fact that Mobile Fidelity, since 2015, has sourced a lot of these records from digital files. I don't know that for a fact. He says for a fact. Should I not believe him? No one's responded. Mobile Fidelity hasn't come out in response. But there are some questions based on what Michael 45 questioned in his video about the Thriller upcoming, what I questioned in my transparency video. I don't know anything. But take an example, this. This came out in the last couple of years, Truth by Jeff Beck, has the original master recording banner. In a way, that's the banner that leads us to believe that this is an all analog recording. And it may be, I don't know the difference. Either way, this sounds fantastic. Now, you know, they price these records based on whether it's super vinyl or whether one steps. They're not cheap. This, I believe, is a double 45 MoFi edition of 5,000, and it is promoted as such. Now, they do have another banner. They call that the silver banner. It says Mobile Fidelity Sound Labs. See the difference here? These are not all analog, and they don't promote them as all analog, and they're usually less expensive, and they actually sound good too. Would an all analog option be better? Probably. But we're finding out now that some of these may not be all analog. All I suggest, and I'm not the only one suggesting this, is they take a page from the Neil Young archives and Neil Young, what he's been doing of late. He hasn't done this all along, but he is trying to get the best possible source. Now, he knows he's the artist in this case, and he's able to do this and push this and promote this, and I admire him. I think it's time for every label to do this. Again, doesn't mean the sound's going to be bad, some amazing digital cuts. We just want to know. You need to tell us. And it's time for the record companies to really jump in and take a page again from Neil Young, from Shane over at Intervention Records, from Joe Harley at Tone Poet, but even all those labels. It's time to put something not just on a hype sticker, but on a cover, on the back cover, what Neil Young did in Toast. It's time, okay? That's it. Short and sweet. Mazzy loves you. What's your opinion?